As blood dripped from Princess Zalara's mangled leg, her hope bled out onto the forest floor. She was utterly alone, the last of her kind, with an unstoppable enemy obliterating her once mighty empire. Her damaged escape pod hissed in the dirt behind her. Zalara slumped against a tree trunk, every ounce of strength drained from her body. The distress beacon blinked weakly, signaling to the uncaring stars above. She thought back to the day everything changed, the day the Zorgax, a name that once meant nothing, became synonymous with death and destruction. The Malan Empire crumbled like sand, defenseless against their newfound foe's onslaught. Allies turned to dust in galactic winds, fleets disintegrating into debris fields. The Zorgax's path was one of total annihilation. Now here she was, on some forsaken planet at the galaxy's edge, her royal blood staining the dirt. She pressed her hand to the wound, knowing it was pointless. She'd sent her final message to a father who was likely already dead. A bitter laugh escaped her lips. The princess of a fallen kingdom, dying alone on a rock, waiting for a rescue that would never come. Zalara closed her eyes, ready to accept her fate, but a rustle in the bushes made them snap back open. A creature emerged, bipedal, furless, clutching some sort of weapon. Her heart raced, but instead of finishing her off, it knelt down beside her. "My name is Ryan Thomas," it said in accented Malan. "I'm here to help." Zalara stared into its eyes, seeing something she thought was lost forever. Hope. Hope for survival. Hope for vengeance. Hope for the future of her people. And it rested in the hands of this strange being from a planet called Earth. Ryan carried Zalara into his ship's medical bay, laying her on the examination table. He grabbed a med kit from the wall and began cleaning and dressing her wounds. Zalara winced. "Thank you, Ryan Thomas. I feared I would die alone on this world." "The Zorgax," Zalara spat the name like venom. "They came without warning, without mercy. World by world they slaughtered us. None could stand against them." Ryan frowned. How could they defeat an empire so quickly? "They wield a terrible weapon, the Nullifier. It disables our ships, our defenses. Entire fleets left helpless before their onslaught. Planets stripped bare." Zalara's voice shook with rage and sorrow. "This weapon, if we could destroy it or capture it, then my people would have a chance," Zalara finished. "A chance for survival, for vengeance." Ryan nodded. "I have some experience in this sort of thing, Black Ops, insurgencies, but we'll need a team." He pulled out a communicator. "Boomer, Ghost, Falcon, it's Ryan. I need you for a mission." Hours later, Ryan's old squad assembled in the ship's briefing room, eyeing Zalara with suspicion. "This is bullshit, Ryan," Jack Boomer Reese said. "You expect us to risk our asses for some alien?" Lena Ghost Ivanova leaned forward. "If her story's true, we're all at risk. I say we hear them out." Ryan explained the Zorgax threat, the Nullifier, the destruction of Zalara's empire. Slowly, his team came around. Sam Falcon Hawkins cracked his knuckles. "So we swoop in, blow this Nullifier to hell and save the galaxy. I'm in." As they planned their strike, a distress signal blared through the comms. A Malan fleet under siege in a nearby system. Zalara surged to her feet. "That's my father's guard. Ryan, please, we must save them." "All right," Ryan said. "Change of plans, we're going in hot. Falcon, prep the ship. Boomer, ready the weapons. Ghost, see if you can hack their systems." He turned to Zalara. "We'll get your people out. Then we end this war." The ship blazed toward the battle, weapons primed, shields raised. They were diving headlong into the fire, the fate of worlds in their hands. Ryan and his team shot out into space, Falcon expertly weaving their ship through the Zorgax blockade, with Ghost scrambling their sensors. Boomer prepped his arsenal, his face lit by the glow of the weapon systems. Zalara's heart pounded as they approached her father's flagship, already scarred by energy blasts. They docked with a shudder, the airlock hissing open to reveal a scene of chaos. Malan guards grappled with Zorgax borders, the corridors slick with blood. Ryan charged forward, his team close behind, their human reflexes and battle-honed instincts giving them an edge. They cut through the enemy like a plasma torch, their movements fluid and precise. At the bridge, they found Emperor Kraxon rallying his beleaguered guards, his armor dented but his resolve unbroken. Ryan and his team jumped into the fray, their surprise attack forcing the Zorgax back. Boomer lobbed a grenade, scattering a cluster of enemies. Ghost jammed their comms with a flick of her wrist. Falcon and Ryan pressed forward, a whirlwind of blades and blaster fire. In the heart of the battle, Boomer spied an opportunity. He fought his way to the reactor controls, his demolition charges already in hand. With expert precision, he planted the explosives and armed the detonator. The blast rocked the ship, alarms screaming as the Zorgax fell back in disarray. In the sudden stillness, Emperor Kraxon regarded the humans warily. But Zalara stepped forward, her voice ringing with conviction as she recounted their bravery. Slowly, her father's stern countenance softened. "The nullifier," he said heavily. "It's on their central base, a fortress even the might of the Milan couldn't breach." Ryan exchanged glances with his team, a plan already forming. "Let us try," he said. "We're not the might of the Milan. We're something they won't see coming." As the planning began in earnest, Ryan felt the weight of the challenge ahead. But looking around at his friends, at Zalara's fierce determination, he also felt a flicker of hope. They had a long fight ahead, but they would face it as one. A somber silence fell over the war room as the grim news sank in. The Zorgax planned to unleash the nullifier on a densely populated Malon colony, a move that would slaughter countless innocents. Ryan's jaw clenched. They had to act fast. He leaned over the holographic display, his eyes darting across the Zorgax base schematics. "We split up. Zalara, Lena, Jack, you're with me. We infiltrate the base, find the nullifier, and take it out." He looked up at Emperor Kraxon. "Your Majesty, you lead the fleet with Sam. Hit them hard, keep their forces occupied." The team sprang into action. In the hangar bay, Sam clapped Ryan on the shoulder. "Don't do anything stupid in there." Ryan grinned. "No promises." Lena and Jack prepped their gear as Zalara checked her blaster. Ryan could see the fire in her eyes, the thirst for vengeance. He just hoped it wouldn't cloud her judgment. Soon the Malon fleet and the human ship parted ways. Sam's voice crackled over the comms as he led the charge, the sound of explosions and energy blasts filling the background. "Falcon to ground team. We've engaged the enemy. You're clear to proceed." Jack hefted his pack, grenades and charges clinking. "Just point me to what needs exploding." They moved swiftly through the sterile corridors, the distant thuds of the space battle reverberating through the walls. Zorgax patrols rushed by, unaware of the intruders in their midst. When confrontation was unavoidable, they struck hard and fast, dropping the enemy before they could raise the alarm. But as they delved deeper, the true horror of the base began to unfold. They passed labs filled with tanks, Malon floating inside, wired to grotesque machines. Zalara's breath caught. "They're experimenting on my people, using them to power their weapon." Lena accessed a terminal, her face pale in the screen's glow. "It's worse than that. They're not just powering it, they're part of it, fused to the nullifier on a genetic level." A strangled gasp escaped Zalara's throat. She pointed a shaking finger at one of the tanks. "Theron, my brother." Ryan's blood ran cold. The Zorgax's cruelty knew no bounds. They had to end this now. They pushed on, the weight of their discovery spurring them forward. The nullifier chamber loomed ahead, guarded by the Zorgax's most elite warriors. Alarms blared as they were finally detected, but it was too late. The team burst into the room, weapons blazing. Ryan and Zalara fought back to back, human agility and Malon ferocity in perfect sync. Lena's drone darted overhead, sowing chaos in the enemy ranks. Jack lobbed a grenade, the blast sending Zorgax flying. And there, at the heart of it all, stood the nullifier. A twisted amalgamation of technology and tortured Malon flesh, pulsing with sickening energy. Prince Theron hung at its core, his once proud face contorted in agony. Tears streamed down Zalara's face as she raised her blaster. "Forgive me, brother," she whispered. But before she could fire, a cold voice cut through the din. "Surrender and the prince may yet live." A towering Zorgax commander stepped forward, his armor gleaming with cruel sophistication. "Resist and he will suffer beyond imagining." Ryan's grip tightened on his weapon, his mind racing. The mission hung by a thread, their fates intertwined with the fate of the galaxy itself. The next move would decide everything. Ryan's mind raced as he assessed the dire situation. The Zorgax commander loomed before them, his elite guard ready to strike. But the sight of Prince Theron, wired into the nullifier's grotesque heart, steeled Ryan's resolve. "Jack, set the charges," Ryan ordered, his voice low and urgent. "Zalara, Lena, free the prisoners." As his team sprang into action, Ryan turned his attention to the nullifier's control panel. His fingers flew across the alien interface, his hacking skills put to the ultimate test. Zorgax glyphs flashed across the screen, but Ryan's determination never wavered. Explosions suddenly rocked the chamber as Jack's charges detonated, sending Zorgax guards flying. Smoke and debris filled the air, providing cover for Zalara and Lena as they raced to the captive Malon. Zalara reached her brother first, tearing at the wires that bound him. "Theron, stay with me," she pleaded, her voice cracking. Prince Theron's eyes fluttered open, his gaze unfocused. "Zalara, is this a dream?" "No dream, brother. We're getting you out of here." As the smoke began to clear, the Zorgax commander caught sight of Ryan at the control panel. With a roar of fury, he charged forward, his elite guard close behind. Ryan barely had time to draw his blaster before the commander was upon him. He ducked and rolled, firing off shots that ricocheted off the Zorgax's armor. The elite guard surrounded him, their energy blades humming. Across the chamber, Zalara and Prince Theron fought side by side, Malon combat training flowing through their veins. Lena's drone darted overhead, raining down covering fire. But for every Zorgax that fell, two more seemed to take their place. Ryan gritted his teeth as he grappled with the commander, the alien's strength overwhelming. Just as all seemed lost, Ryan's hacking bore fruit. The nullifier began to pulse and shudder, waves of disruptive energy washing over the chamber. Zorgax weapons sparked and died, their armor shorting out. Ryan seized his chance. With a final desperate effort, he overloaded the nullifier's Zorfium core. Warning klaxons blared as the device began to destabilize. "Time to go!" Ryan yelled over the cacophony. The team disengaged from the reeling Zorgax, gathering up the freed Malon prisoners. They raced through the crumbling corridors of the base, dodging falling debris and energy discharges. Behind them, the nullifier reached critical mass. With a blinding flash and an earth-shattering roar, it detonated, consuming the Zorgax stronghold in an inferno of liberated energy. Ryan and his team barely made it to their ship before the shockwave hit. As they blasted away from the collapsing base, Emperor Kraxon's fleet surged forward to cover their escape. In the chaos of the Zorgax lines, individual ships began to wink out, their nullified defenses no match for the vengeful Malon onslaught. The tide of the battle had turned. As Ryan's ship docked with the Malon flagship, the weight of their victory began to sink in. They had struck a blow against the Zorgax, not just for the Malon, but for all the galaxy's free peoples. But as Zalara embraced her weakened brother, as the human and Malon warriors clapped each other on the back, Ryan knew their fight was far from over. The Zorgax would retaliate, more desperate and dangerous than ever. Yet in that moment, as he looked around at his team and his new Malon allies, Ryan felt a flicker of hope. They had proven that the Zorgax were not invincible, that when the galaxy's defenders stood together, they could accomplish the impossible. The war would continue, but now they had a fighting chance. In the wake of the nullifier's destruction, the Zorgax lines crumbled. Their ships drifted aimlessly, crews surrendering en masse as the Malon fleet swept through their shattered defenses. On the flagship's bridge, Emperor Kraxon watched the rout with grim satisfaction. "Press the attack," he ordered. "We must not let them regroup." Crackson's eyes gleamed. "Do it!" Ryan's squad struck like lightning, appearing behind Zorgak's lines to sow chaos and destruction. Boomer's explosives reduced depots to rubble. Ghost's hacking sent enemy ships careening into each other. Falcon flew rings around their fighters, blasting them to scrap. The Malon surged forward in their wake, reclaiming world after world, but even as they celebrated each victory, a shadow hung over them. He told them of whispers he'd heard in Zorgak's cells, of a doomsday weapon that could incinerate stars, of the Zorgax's true aim, not conquest, but annihilation. "We will," Ryan vowed. They gathered a team of their best and brightest, humans and Malon united by a common cause. Boomer, Ghost, Falcon, warriors and spies, hackers and pilots. As they planned their strike, Ryan found Zalara on the observation deck, staring out at the stars. He stood beside her, their shoulders brushing. "We'll finish this," he said, "together." She took his hand, her grip strong and sure. "Together." Emperor Crackson saw them off, pressing a data chip into Zalara's palm. "Our latest stealth tech and weaponry," he said. "May they serve you well." Ryan and Zalara's ship slipped into the void, vanishing from sensors and scopes. Ahead lay the Zorgak's homeworld, and a mission that would decide the fate of galaxies. In the cramped confines of the ship, the team prepped their gear with grim focus. Boomer hefted a new explosive charge, his grin razor-sharp. Falcon pored over nav charts, plotting their covert approach. But it was Ghost who broke the tension, her eyes alight with a discovery. "I've cracked their comm encryptions," she said. "We can piggyback on their network, stay one step ahead." A cheer went up from the assembled humans and Malon. For the first time they had a true advantage. As they neared the Zorgak system, Ryan and Zalara pored over the intel, searching for any clue to the doomsday weapon's location. Their heads bent close, fingers brushing as they pointed out key installations and defense grids. Something had shifted between them, a spark kindled in the crucible of war, a connection forged in shared loss and shared purpose. But there was no time to explore it, no room for distraction, not with the fate of worlds hanging in the balance. The Zorgak's homeworld loomed before them, a bristling fortress of guns and ships. The team exchanged one last round of nods and clasped hands. Then they slipped into the darkness, ready to bring the fight to the enemy's very heart. The Zorgaks would learn the true meaning of vengeance, and the galaxy would remember the day humans and Malon stood as one. The team's ship sliced through the void, its Malon stealth tech rendering it little more than a ghostly shimmer against the stars. Ryan and Zalara stood on the bridge, their eyes fixed on the looming shape of the Zorgak's homeworld. "We're coming up on the drop zone," Falcon reported, his fingers dancing across the controls. Stealth field holding steady. The ship dipped into the planet's atmosphere, skimming over the jagged landscape. Towering spires of black metal jutted from the scorched earth, a testament to the Zorgax's brutal efficiency. "There," Zalara said, pointing to a massive complex nestled in a cratered valley. "The doomsday weapon must be inside." The ship settled on a rocky outcropping, its ramp hissing open. Ryan and his team slipped out into the harsh alien night, their steps muffled by Ghost's sound dampeners. They approached the complex cautiously, Boomer taking point with his scanner. "I'm picking up heavy defenses," he whispered. "Automated turrets, energy shields, the works." "We'll have to go in quiet," Ryan said. "Ghost, you're up." Ghost nodded, her fingers already flying over her wrist computer. A moment later, a section of the shield flickered and died. They slipped inside, the complex's sterile corridors stretching before them. The team moved forward, their weapons at the ready. Suddenly, a Zorgax patrol rounded the corner. Ryan and Zalara reacted instantly, their blades flashing in the dim light. The Zorgax fell before they could raise the alarm, their armor no match for the razor-sharp edges. But more were coming. The team pushed deeper into the facility, engaging in fierce close-quarters combat with the Zorgax guards. Boomer's explosives blasted through reinforced doors, while Ghost's drones sowed chaos among the enemy ranks. As they fought their way into the heart of the complex, they stumbled upon a horrifying sight. Row upon row of containment pods lined the walls, each one holding a human or Malan prisoner. Many bore the scars of brutal experimentation, their bodies twisted and broken. "My God," Ryan breathed, "what have they done?" Zalara's face was a mask of fury. "We have to free them." They set to work, Ghost hacking the pod controls while the others stood guard. One by one the prisoners stumbled out, blinking in the harsh light. Among them was a woman with haunted eyes and a tattered lab coat. "I'm Dr. Elena Sokolov," she said, her voice shaking. "The Zorgax, they forced me to work on their weapon." Dr. Sokolov nodded, determination replacing fear. I know how to sabotage the device." They raced to the central chamber, Dr. Sokolov guiding them through the twisting corridors. But as they reached the massive blast doors, alarms began to blare. "They know we're here," Zalara said, her blades snapping into position. Wave after wave of Zorgax soldiers poured into the chamber, their weapons spitting deadly energy. The team met them head-on, human and Malan fighting side by side in a desperate battle for survival. Ryan, Zalara and Dr. Sokolov pushed through the chaos, working frantically to sabotage the doomsday weapon. The device pulsed with malevolent energy, its core a swirling maelstrom of destructive power. "Almost there," Dr. Sokolov said, her fingers flying across the control panel. "Just a few more seconds." But the Zorgax kept coming, their numbers seeming endless. The team was being pushed back, their ammunition running low. Just as all seemed lost, Dr. Sokolov let out a triumphant shout. "It's done! The self-destruct is armed!" Ryan grabbed her, pulling her back as the device began to shake and shudder. "Time to go!" They fought their way back through the complex, the countdown to destruction ticking in their ears. The Zorgax were in disarray, their ultimate weapon turned against them. The team burst from the facility, racing for their ship as the ground heaved beneath their feet. They leaped aboard, Falcon gunning the engines. As they rocketed away, the complex erupted in a blinding flash of light. The shockwave slammed into them, sending the ship tumbling. But Falcon held steady, pulling them out of the planet's gravity well and into the safety of space. In the aftermath, they watched as secondary explosions ripped across the Zorgax homeworld, the doomsday weapon's destruction setting off a chain reaction in the planet's unstable core. It was a crippling blow, one that would leave the Zorgax reeling. But as Ryan looked around at his battered team, at the haunted faces of the rescued prisoners, he knew their fight was far from over. They had won a battle, but the war still raged, and they would meet it head-on, humans and Malan united against the darkness. The ground shook as Ryan's team raced out of the Zorgax complex, the doomsday weapon's self-destruct sequence ticking down in their ears. Explosions ripped through the facility, walls crumbling and ceilings caving in. They leaped over debris and ducked under collapsing archways, their hearts pounding in their chests. Just as they cleared the outer perimeter, the complex erupted in a massive fireball. The shockwave slammed into them, sending them tumbling across the scorched earth. Ryan pushed himself up, his ears ringing, and helped Zalara to her feet. They turned to watch as the complex was consumed by the inferno, the Zorgax's doomsday ambitions reduced to ash and rubble. Back aboard the Malan flagship, the rescued human prisoners were ushered into the medical bay. Dr. Sokolov, her face etched with exhaustion and horror, pulled Ryan and Zalara aside. "The experiments, the tests they ran on us," she said, her voice shaking. "They weren't just trying to improve their weapons. They were creating something new, something terrible." She told them of whispers among the Zorgax scientists, of a hybrid super-soldier program that blended the best qualities of humans and Malan. Soldiers with enhanced strength, speed and resilience, utterly loyal to the Zorgax cause. "I fear they may have already succeeded," Dr. Sokolov said, "and if they have, these hybrids could change everything." Emperor Kraxon's face darkened. We cannot allow these abominations to see the light of day. Ryan nodded. We need to draw them out, eliminate them before they can be deployed. A plan took shape. They would leak false intelligence about a vital Malon military installation, a tempting target too valuable for the Zorgax to ignore. The hybrids, eager to prove their worth, would undoubtedly be sent to lead the assault. The trap was set, and the hybrids took the bait. They struck like lightning, their movements a blur, their strength unmatched. Malon defenses crumbled before their onslaught, their weapons seemingly useless against the hybrids' enhanced physiology. But Ryan, Zalara, and their hand-picked team were ready. They met the hybrids head-on, human ingenuity and Malon ferocity united against this new threat. The battle was brutal, a whirlwind of blood and fury. Boomer's explosives ripped through hybrid armor. Ghost's hacking skills turned their own enhancements against them. Zalara and her brother fought side by side, a dance of death honed by years of training. But for every hybrid that fell, another seemed to take its place. Ryan found himself face to face with their leader, a towering monstrosity of muscle and malice. They clashed in a storm of blades and blaster fire, their battle carrying them away from the main fight. The hybrid was fast, strong, relentless, but Ryan was fueled by something more than genetics or programming. He fought for his friends, for the future of two races, for the chance to end this war once and for all. Their duel raged across the battle-scarred installation, neither giving quarter, neither backing down. The hybrid's blade sliced through Ryan's armor, drawing blood, but Ryan's resolve never wavered. In a final, desperate gambit, he feinted left, then lunged right. His blade found a gap in the hybrid's defenses, piercing its heart. The creature staggered, its eyes widening in shock and rage. Then it toppled, the light fading from its eyes. Ryan stood over his fallen foe, his chest heaving, his weapon slick with blood. Around him the battle still raged, the fate of the installation hanging in the balance. He gripped his blade tighter and charged back into the fray, Zalara at his side. The fight was far from over, but with each hybrid that fell, the tide began to turn. Ryan and the hybrid leader clashed in a whirlwind of strikes and counterstrikes, their battle raging across the war-torn installation. The hybrid's blows landed like hammer strikes, each one threatening to shatter bone. But Ryan met them head-on, his human reflexes and Malon battle training, allowing him to weather the storm. Around them, Zalara and the team fought with unbridled ferocity, tearing through the remaining hybrids with a combination of blades, blasters, and raw determination. Boomer's explosives ripped through enhanced flesh, while Ghost's EMP grenades scrambled the hybrid's augmented senses. Ryan ducked under a sweeping kick, feeling the air whistle over his head. He retaliated with a rapid flurry of punches, targeting the hybrid's pressure points with surgical precision. The techniques learned from an ancient human martial art and honed by Malon sparring drills seemed to catch the hybrid off guard. But the monster adapted quickly, its genetic enhancements allowing it to learn and evolve at a terrifying rate. It countered Ryan's next strike, its fist slamming into his ribs with sickening force. Ryan staggered back, his breath coming in ragged gasps. The hybrid pressed its advantage, raining down blows that Ryan barely managed to deflect. Out of the corner of his eye, Ryan saw Zalara dispatch her opponent with a graceful slice of her energy blade. She turned, her eyes widening as she saw Ryan's predicament. "Catch!" she yelled, tossing him one of the fallen hybrid's plasma rifles. Ryan snatched the weapon out of the air, bringing it up just in time to block a crushing overhead strike. The rifle cracked under the impact, but it bought Ryan the split second he needed. With a roar of effort, he activated the rifle's overcharge function and rammed it into the hybrid's chest. The weapon exploded in a searing flash of plasma, vaporizing the hybrid's torso in an instant. As the smoke cleared, Ryan stood over the remains of his foe, his chest heaving, his body battered but unbroken. Around him, the last of the hybrids fell, overwhelmed by the skill and tenacity of his human and Malon comrades. But even as they savored their hard-fought victory, Dr. Sokolov's analysis of the recovered Zorgax data brought a chill to their blood. The hybrids they had faced were mere prototypes, the vanguard of a far greater threat growing in the shadows of Zorgak space. Emperor Kraxon's face was grim as he studied the readouts. "Thousands more," he whispered. "An army of abominations poised to crush us all." Ryan felt Zalara's hand slip into his, her grip fierce and determined. "We won't let that happen," she said, her voice ringing with conviction. "We'll take the fight to them, burn out this monstrous program at its roots." As the Allied fleet mobilized, as soldiers Human and Malon prepared for the final push, Ryan knew that the true test still lay ahead. The Zorgax's strongholds loomed before them, bristling with defenses both technological and biological. But looking around at his team, at the united peoples of two races, Ryan felt a flicker of hope amid the looming darkness. They had come so far, endured so much. They would not falter now, not with the fate of the galaxy hanging in the balance. As the data from Dr. Sokolov's analysis sank in, a grim determination settled over the Allied forces. The Zorgak strongholds loomed ahead, bristling with defenses and teeming with the remaining hybrids. Ryan and Zalara gathered their team, a mix of battle-hardened humans and Malon warriors, each ready to lay down their lives for the cause. The assault began with a thunderous barrage from the Malon fleet, the ship's weapons pounding the Zorgak's defenses with relentless fury. Under the cover of the bombardment, Ryan and Zalara's strike team slipped through the cracks, infiltrating the heart of the enemy's domain. The halls of the Zorgak stronghold echoed with the sounds of battle, the air thick with the stench of blood and scorched metal. Ryan and his comrades fought with a savage intensity, cutting down hybrids and Zorgak soldiers alike. Boomer's explosives ripped through reinforced bulkheads, while Falcon's precision shots found their marks with deadly accuracy. But the Zorgaks would not go down easily. They unleashed their remaining hybrids, monstrous super soldiers that tore through the Allied ranks with terrifying speed and strength. Ghost's hacking skills were put to the test as she sought to disrupt the hybrids' augmented systems, while Zalara and her brother led the charge, their energy blades flashing in the dim light. The battle raged on, each side suffering heavy losses. The ground grew slick with blood and gore, the air choked with the screams of the dying. Ryan fought with a fury born of desperation, his rifle spitting death at every turn. At last they reached the Central Command Facility, the nexus of the Zorgax's hybrid program. Ryan and Zalara broke off from the main group, fighting their way deep into the heart of the complex. They burst into the command center, weapons ready, only to find themselves face to face with the Zorgax High Commander. The commander was a towering figure, his armor gleaming with cruel sophistication. His eyes glittered with malice as he regarded the intruders, a sneer twisting his alien features. "Welcome to your doom," he hissed, his voice dripping with venom. "You have fought bravely, but in the end you are no match for the might of the Zorgax." Ryan and the commander clashed in a vicious hand-to-hand battle, their movements a blur of striking limbs and slashing blades. The humans' skill and tenacity caught the Zorgax off guard, but the commander's raw strength and speed were formidable. As they fought, Zalara raced to the facility's control systems, her fingers flying over the alien interfaces. She worked feverishly to sabotage the hybrid program, to sever the Zorgax's control over their monstrous creations. But as she delved deeper into the system, a cold realization washed over her. The only way to ensure the total destruction of the program was to overload the facility's reactor core manually, and doing so would mean certain death for whoever initiated the sequence. Zalara glanced over at Ryan, still locked in mortal combat with the Zorgax commander. She knew what she had to do. With a heavy heart, she turned back to the console, her fingers inputting the final commands. "Ryan," she called out, her voice cracking with emotion. "It's done. The reactor. It's going to blow. You need to get out of here." She shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "There is no other way. This is the only chance we have to end this once and for all." The Zorgax commander, sensing his impending doom, let out a roar of fury and redoubled his attack. Ryan fought back with renewed desperation, trying to break free, to reach Zalara. But she was already moving, racing towards the reactor core. She paused at the threshold, looking back at Ryan one last time. "Go," she whispered. "Live for both of us." And then she was gone, disappearing into the seething heart of the reactor. Ryan let out a scream of anguish, a sound that tore at his very soul. With a final titanic effort, he broke free of the commander's grasp and sprinted for the exit, his every step a lifetime. He burst from the facility just as the reactor went critical, a blinding flash of light consuming everything in its path. The explosion ripped through the Zorgak stronghold, a wave of destruction that could be felt across the planet. In the aftermath of the battle, a stunned silence fell over the survivors. The Zorgaks, their forces shattered and their hybrid program destroyed, had no choice but to surrender. The Malin and their human allies had achieved the impossible, but the cost had been staggering. Ryan stood amidst the ruins, his armor scorched and his body battered, but it was the pain in his heart that threatened to consume him, the knowledge that Zalara, the woman he had grown to love, was gone. He returned to Earth a hero, celebrated and honored by all. But the accolades rang hollow in his ears, the parades and speeches a bitter mockery of his grief. In the years that followed, as the galaxy slowly rebuilt from the ashes of war, Ryan carried on, his every waking moment haunted by the memory of Zalara and the countless others who had sacrificed everything for the cause. The war was over, but for Ryan the battle would never truly end. The scars it left behind, both physical and emotional, would stay with him forever, a constant reminder of the price of victory. And yet, as he looked out at the stars, at the countless worlds that now knew peace because of their sacrifice, he knew that it had been worth it, that Zalara's legacy and the legacy of all those who had fallen would live on in the hearts and minds of those they had saved. The war may have ended, but the fight for a better tomorrow would continue, and Ryan would be there every step of the way to ensure that their sacrifices had not been in vain. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.